Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. This week, our special guest is Reverend Andrew Pins. Pastor Pins, it's been some time. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and honored to be here. Not for the occasion, but just to be here to voice a concern about what has taken place in one of the neighborhoods in Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, and speaking of that, just north of downtown, the north side of Abilene, it was the fourth shooting in 9 months, third this year at the Hookah Lounge there on the north side of Abilene. There were two individuals that were injured in this incident early Sunday morning. Your group, ICANN, that you're associated with, is looking to do something about this. We'll get into that. But first and foremost, tell me about certainly what because in our conversation before we kind of began the pod today, you talked about how we talked about like you were experiencing this in real time, which you were. You weren't necessarily there, but you saw it. You saw and heard things because you lived down the street. Tell me what all that was like, and kind of just bring that up to speed for us.
All right. Manning, first and foremost, I'm not here to speak mainly regarding ICANN, even though I'm a part of that.
Sure.
From day one of 30 years of in existence. But as a prominent person that lives in the community, also a prominent community leader and one who speaks for the community, I sit here today to speak regarding what has transpired. When you reflect back, and it's been almost 9-10 months from the beginning of the situation that began to occur. And several times I've had to actually get up out of my sleep from around 2-3 o'clock in the morning and to call in to ask that the noise be lessened. I'm hearing the noise that wakes me up on Friday nights, Saturday night, and especially when I've had a long week on that week, and Friday try to go to bed to be ready for the weekend, and then especially on Saturday preparing to get up to go to my church and preach and worship with my congregation on Sundays, which has become a deterrent and very aggravating for me personally. And also that I have spoken with several neighbors that's in the radius, even though it's not as many living in our area, in the predominant area where we are close to the proximity of the club itself, but it still has caused some problems, and especially ones who are closer to the location than I am. So my reason for sitting today is to see if something can be done, if the problem can be addressed, even though it's been addressed, especially since I've gone before City Council, I've gone before Planning and Zoning, I've gone before and spoke with the APD, and I have not gotten the answers, or we have not gotten the answers that are needed to eliminate the problem in the neighborhood. 30 years we worked, and I say we, and I go back to our nonprofit, from problems that existed 30 years ago in that neighborhood. And we were able to eradicate and eliminate a lot of those problems that existed then. And over that period of time, it's been very quietly, and the neighbors have enjoyed that. And all of a sudden, we are faced with an after-hour club that opens up at 12, around 11, 12 o'clock at night, and goes to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And that is a deterrent. That is very aggravating. And especially when I try to work with the community, I try to work with business owners in the community, and then I have to endure, and especially when I try to go home, get a good night's sleep, to be fresh and ready to go the next morning.
Well,
That's aggravating.
help us paint this picture. Certainly from on early Sunday morning when you heard gunshots and you kind of began to see this play out. Paint this picture for us.
Well, I have to still go back to several weeks back when the incident happened a few weeks back, and there was another incident prior to even this incident where gunshots were rang out, and I called in. Just thank God no one got wounded, but there were gunshots. It had not been reported. But I think from conversation as I went before City Council, it was stated that something would be done and would look into it. As I spoke with APD officers that work the neighborhood, we're looking into it. We're trying to see what can be done. I actually called the owner of the property, and he was supposed to have met with me. Never did actually come to my location to actually meet. Have not heard anything from him. So I think what has transpired to lead up to what has happened now, someone dropped the ball. And I'm not here to fault the gentleman that runs the club. It's one that's mainly involved in it. I know this young man very well, and I trust his honesty. I trust him as a person, and I've also spoken to him. I've known his family over the years and have been there to support several of his causes in his early years. But I think what's transpiring, what's taking place, as I stated, someone dropped the ball. There should have been some efforts from day one, from the first incident, that if this type of activity, if this type of situation is going to occur in the neighborhood, let's bring some people together. The owner of the building, the community itself, and those who have been affected. And I'm one of the ones who have been affected. Let's go to the bargaining table and see what can be done to eradicate or to say that we do not want this situation in our neighborhood. One thing I found out, bullets do not have names on them.
No, they don't.
It does not have an address. And if I'm in proximity, I have grandchildren that comes and spend time at my home. I'm there. I have children that come spend time at home, and it doesn't take much for a bullet to be fired and to come into my location. And then also as a veteran, I'm a disabled veteran that fought in Vietnam, that went to Korea and did some minor fighting in Korea, and have been around those type of situations where gunfire and bombs and things that are going on. So I deal with post-traumatic stress. And this last situation, actually on Friday night, I almost got up and called APD Friday night because I could hear the music. It was not as loud. It was not as bad as it had been. So I went ahead and went to sleep, and I made through it. Then finally about 2 o'clock, I didn't hear anything else. Likewise, Saturday, I stayed up a little late because I knew I'm going to have to deal with that. But went ahead and showered, got my bath, and went to bed, and was bedded down. And I heard the noise, and I was hesitant about not calling APD that night because they assured me that something was going to be done. But here it is with the noise and everything else existing. So I went ahead and went on to sleep. I said, I'll deal with it. And about 2:30, 2:45, I heard the gunshots. And immediately it woke me up. I got up, went to the front of my house. Thank God that my grandchildren had gone home. They were taken home, and none of my other children was at home. I was the only one home. So I went to the front to see what was transpiring. And immediately as I opened my door, I saw people running from the area of the club. I saw cars driving very at a high rate of speed. And then immediately I saw the police patrol cars there with their lights on. So I knew something then had happened. I said then, I just prayed that no one had gotten shot. Our church, my church, I have spoken several times to my board, to my congregation, and we have this location, this area on our prayer list. From the first incident, we prayed for the family. The second incident, we prayed for the family. Even then, on Sunday morning, I got up and I said, let's be prayerful for this situation, praying that no one would receive any repercussion from that. And then I learned that 2 individuals had been transported to the hospital being shot. So my next step was to go back to City Hall. And I knew and realized that we just got a new city manager, so that was not a city manager that was actually in place per se. My return was to go back to City Hall and address it again, approach the building owner and address it again, but also to voice concern. I've only heard from one council person that actually spoke to me, and we were in another meeting, and we spoke a little bit about my presence the time that I did go to City Hall. But I feel that with this being so close, and not so much about it being so close, but in a neighborhood that has worked so hard to eradicate these type of activities, there seemed to be no support, concern to per se, let's call up the pastors, let's call up the neighbors, let's see if we can have a dialogue with the person that's running the club to see what can be done.
Has there been that?
There has not been that. That has not been done. So somebody has dropped the ball. And now, why have to wait until one life is lost, 3 individuals have been wounded, and then the neighbors have had to endure? And that's not only me complaining, but there's others that live around 8th Street of that location on 8th and between 8th and Plum Street, as well as in Mesquite Street itself, that have voiced concern. But their problem is they are afraid that if they speak out, that there'll be some retaliation against them. And that's not a good feeling. When you're not afraid, when you're afraid to speak up on what's transpiring in your neighborhood. There was a letter, as I mentioned, from our director, now chairman of our ICANN board, was submitted. There's not, to my knowledge, from my last meeting, there's been no reply from City Council, and I'm not shifting the blame, but there's not been no reply or any communication, as well as even myself receiving a phone call and saying this is where we are.
I want to put a pin in ICANN for a bit. Well, I do want to touch on that here in a bit. But let me ask you this. If this particular club was in any other area of town, and we don't have to, you can say wherever it is in a part of Abilene, do you think that this would still be existing? This would be going on?
Well,
enlighten me on that.
I'm not in the club scene, but I do know back through history there's been some other clubs in other locations that have had the same type of situation that we're faced with in our neighborhood. And it wasn't also, even then, it was not, it was looked into, or maybe say we'll look into it and see what can be done. But I think it mostly taken 3 locations. I know it taken the neighbors and the other communities to stand up. And finally, even then, at several of those locations, there were individuals who lost their life. Why should it have to get to that point when when the first call goes in, there should be something regarding zoning, compliance, and other things that's in law and in place that states that these type of activities should be. Go back to ICANN, and I'm now facing what Mrs. Gladys Abar faced in the years of her living on North 13th. And my efforts and my promise to her when she was living and when I was approached and asked to get some help, I took that initiative, and I am very prideful for that today, because out of that, ICANN Interest Citizen Abilene North was brought into existence because we rallied together. The pastors rallied together, the community rallied together, and business owners rallied together that we're going to address this. Let's get this out of here. As far as the other clubs, like I say, I don't know. I do know, but when you think about the problem that's existing, not only with the club, but there's another neighborhood that's faced with similar situation, an apartment on the north side that's faced with similar situation that we're faced with in the Carver neighborhood.
You talk about ICANN. I would say you're an influential voice, an influential leader here in the Key City. What are y'all doing at this point to kind of to do something about this situation?
Since our last meeting, I have not spoke with our director. The director has been out. He has had some illness in his family that he's had to address. We have been working timely and very much every day working on the project, Woodson School project that we are beginning to take charge of. So that's been time consuming, and also with my activities and schedule. We do have a meeting planned, I think, on the 14th board meeting, and I'm going to ask that it be brought on the agenda, that we will address it. I'll probably ask our director to maybe have a special call meeting with our board. We are a nonprofit neighborhood association, so as a neighborhood association, we address these type of issues. We look into these type of situations, and we should be first and foremost the lead in sort of canvassing our neighborhood to see what comes in, what stays in, and what should go.
You mentioned folks around the area, residents that live around the area that maybe aren't as outspoken as you are. But on the other hand, will it take more people to just speak up about this in order to get something done?
Yes, and I feel also with the young people that, and it's seemingly to be the young that are doing it, young men that are doing these types of activities. It's time for us as black men, white or Hispanic, to come together to try to draw these individuals to the table and to discuss with them and to work with them in a positive way, that with these type of activities, you're only hurting themselves. I mean, they're only hurting themselves, and it only makes it more of a problem situation for the neighborhood that are trying to live, trying to have a good life. And for instance, in the Carver neighborhood, in the 30 years that the nonprofit has worked, there's now development that's taking place in the neighborhood. Also, I'm proud to say it's not really a predominantly black neighborhood anymore. You have a cross sector of Hispanic, white, and black that live in the neighborhood. There is some pride of some areas of people taking pride in their properties, and we are definitely wanting to follow through on our mission to enhance, to preserve, to continue to do economic development and other aspects to make that neighborhood, that area, a much safer, a much quieter, much peaceful area for not only for the neighborhood but for the city of Abilene, Texas. With what's taking place, development that's taking place down on Pine and Cedar, in the areas downtown, we know there's lots of people coming in to that area. With that street, 6th Street, that's a vein from Treadaway going down to Pine and the other areas supportive. On 8th Street, there is a vein going in. On 10th Street, there's a vein going in. And also on 13th Street, there's a vein going in. And then the others coming in from Pine, coming downtown.
So you're seeing development in that area.
And then you have a hotel that's bringing people not from Abilene that are living in those hotels. And what do you expect them to do if they're hearing gunshots just a distance away?
Valid point.
Valid point there. And businesses, restaurants, and other things that are taking place. And then look at the individuals that have businesses in that building currently right now of their customers. Will their customers be reluctant to come, even though this activity is late at night, early in the morning? But still, you are trying to draw, which would take a distraction.
Certainly. As we land the plane here, Pastor Pins, I do want to ask you this, and certainly if you had a message for the new city manager, our city council, or folks that oversee our city government in the city of Abilene, when it comes to this issue of shenanigans, violence that's happening there on the north side concerning this establishment, what would be your message to these folks?
To the council and the new city manager, I think a dialogue of communication, and especially we have a city manager that's new, not so much the city government, but now the city manager of Abilene, Texas. Get to know the community. I think there, since we are a nonprofit neighborhood association, get to know our board. Work with our chief of police from this police perspective and see what can be done to address these issues. Communication, if there's no communication, then everything sort of is swept up under the carpet. And then people begin to turn their eyes and look a different way. But if you're going to have a community that's prideful and supportive to city government is there to serve those communities. Come into the communities, hear and find out what's taking place to help eliminate some of these problems that are existing. We have to realize now Abilene is growing. I'm not saying it's bringing negative people in because some of it is from those who are already here. But it is growing. And once it grows, neighborhood grows, then you have to look at different aspects that take place in that neighborhood. To do development, to continue to progressively enhance the neighborhood, and especially when it comes to crime in the neighborhood, there should be a crime force that we are going to look at these type of situations more seriously, which would hopefully eliminate some of the deaths that have occurred, some of the other crimes that are taking place, and other situations that happens late at night. And late at night is nothing new. I can remember going on the police academy way back in the late 80s, 90s. And I rode with officers that would patrol late at night, early in the morning. And you'd be amazed. It's not only on the north side. It's not only on the west side or east side. It's also some on the south side that takes place.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So if we say we are a city to be proud of, if we are proud, grateful and thankful for communities we live in, then let's take some initiative to look at and hear what the community has to say. I chose to live in the neighborhood by choice. I am a property owner. I have other properties in the neighborhood, and I'm proudly part of it. I've been there for a long time. I don't anticipate on moving out or living anywhere else. That's my home, and I want to live my last years. I'm 76 years old. I want to live my last years in peace and quietness and to have a relaxation. And then more so as a veteran who has to deal with post-traumatic stress, I don't want to have to go through counseling anymore. I know how to control it. I know how to manage it. But there are situations such as this with the gunfires and the loud music and other noise distractions that any veteran that deals with post-traumatic stress or any person that deals with that it's a battle. It comes to a battle for that person to maintain.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Pence, I appreciate your time today. Every time we've always kind of done a story with you, an interview with you, you're always very enlightening, and I
Yes,
appreciate your time.
yes. Well, I appreciate you also, Manny, for inviting me, and I hope that from this dialogue today and this conversation, that it will move to a different level. I do know a group of guys that precisely work with young men, and we invite those young men to come. There's a breakfast group that takes place at Golden Corral on the second Saturday every month. We invite all kind of guys to come talk to us. At my church, there's a fourth Saturday men's breakfast. We do free breakfast that we invite young and old to come and talk to us, that we can work to become better men and to address the issues that men are faced with in our city and in our community.
Well, Pastor Pence, appreciate your time today. For Reverend Andrew Pence, I am Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday conversation here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.